Hey guys, it's Mo. Welcome to the first video on this channel. Today I want to show you guys, and girls, can't forget about the women, never, how to draw supply and demand zones and how I personally draw them. Now, they're very similar to support and resistance zones, but not quite the same. They have slight changes to them, which provides them with better trading opportunities and give you a better edge than someone that's just using support and resistance levels. Now, if you don't know what a supply or demand zone is, it's basically an area where buyers like to step in heavily or sellers like to step in heavily. This should only be used for charting large caps, as this is where I find it to work the best. It's an area where institutional traders like to place their buys and sells. And if you're trading large caps, the person you're betting against is likely an institution. Seeing where institutions like to place their sell positions or their buy positions is literally a cheat code, in my opinion, and gives you an insight on how the market as a whole is moving. I'll go more into that in another video, but that's just a small recap on supply and demand zones. Now, let me show you guys on how I draw my zones. There are multiple ways on drawing them, so let's just start. Now, how I mainly start drawing my zones is going on larger time frames. The larger the time frame, the stronger the zone, in my opinion. Firstly, I like to go on the daily time frame and see where I can draw potential zones here. Right now, we're just looking at candles. Where am I exactly going to draw my zones? What criteria do I look for? Personally, I look for an impulse move to either direction. So, starting off, we can clearly see that at the very top of the S&P futures, there was a massive impulse move to the downside. So let's start drawing our zone from here. Now, I start my zones from the very top or the very bottom of a move to the candle open, close, or even the candle low, depending on how the candle is formed. On this candle, I would personally draw it on the candle close. So we can draw one right here all the way to the candle close. This would be a supply zone for me on the daily time frame. Now, this is just one zone on the daily time frame. I like to find as many zones as I can on each single time frame, right? So on the daily, we can see another impulse move down, a huge impulse move to the downside. So I would start from the very top of this move, and depending on how this candle is formed, I would look to close this zone from the candle close, the open, or the low. On this zone particularly, I would look to close it at the candle open, right? Now, why am I doing it on the open of this candle and on the close of this candle? Personally, we can see that this zone is 20 points around. I don't like to have my zones too big to the point where if I do enter a trade, I'm going to be red for a majority of the trade, and then if it doesn't work against me, it's going to be a large losing position compared to if I have a smaller zone and I'm able to cut it very quickly. So these are just two supply zones. Let's draw some demand zones. We would look from the very bottom of an impulse move to either direction, right? We can see a huge move to the upside right here. Personally, I would go from the very bottom of this move to, if I draw it from the candle open, the zone would be too small to the point where I doubt I would get the trading opportunity here. Yes, the risk to reward in this zone is going to be very good, but I will most likely not have that trading opportunity and I would just miss the trade entirely. So on this candle, I would do to the candle close, right? And I would just extend it. This would be our demand zone right here. So now that you guys know how to draw it on the daily time frame, I would go to the 4 hour. That's my next time frame that I usually go to, and see if I can optimize my zones or I can find new zones. So zooming in, can we optimize the very top zone right here? Personally, I don't think so. I think the daily supply zone was drawn perfectly, so I don't really need to do anything over here because we can see that there's areas of resistance where sellers are coming in heavy, and I don't even need to adjust the zone. Now, on the other zone, for example, I can see that we can actually optimize this zone, right? It's going from the top of this candle to the close of this candle, but I can see that I can go from the top of this candle to the close of the same candle, and I will probably have a better risk to reward this way, and I will still have the same trading opportunity, right? Now, I would go on even smaller time frames and see if this zone is optimized to its full potential. So zooming in, we can clearly see that the way we drew our 4 hour supply zone was the best. And at the very bottom of the zone is where sellers are still stepping in. We can see right here, sellers stepping in this zone, right? Sellers stepping in still in this zone. We move to the next day, sellers still stepping in this zone, and our risk to reward just got optimized, right? That's how I draw my zones. Now I would do this for each and every single zone that I find and try to fully optimize that zone. So right now I can clearly see a couple more supply zones just by looking at the chart, right? Look for a big impulse move down. So for example, we had some consolidation right here and we had a huge impulse move down. That falls in my criteria for a supply zone. So I would draw a zone right here from the top of this candle to the candle close, right? This would be my 4-hour supply zone. I would keep doing this. I see a huge impulse move down right here. So I would go from the top of this candle to the candle close, right? And we can clearly see the next day we came into the supply zone and rejected and had another huge impulse move down, which created more supply inside of this supply zone, right? Which makes this supply zone even stronger in my opinion. So I would draw another zone right here from the top of this candle to the close of this candle, because if I do it from the open of this candle, this zone will be literally huge. It would be how many points? It would be 45 points. I would not have a good trading opportunity from this zone. So I would do it from the top of this candle to the close of that green candle that I'm looking at right here. Extend this out for, let's say, a March right here. Extend both these zones out and see how price reacts in these zones, right? So let's zoom out. We can clearly see price came into supply, and this is an area where supply was created inside of supply, which means sellers are super aggressive right here, and we push down once, right? We come back into the supply zone and we push down again, which means we created supply inside of supply inside of supply. It's funny, but this is an area where sellers are super aggressive, right? This is a key area where sellers like to step in heavy. So your area to short would be in this supply zone. You do not want to add your longs in the supply zone, as this is an area where institutional sellers are heavy in this zone, right? We can clearly see even high volume right here in these zones. So sellers are super active in these zones, and you do not want to be adding your long positions in here. Best risk to reward would be adding short positions right here. Now the lowest time frame I would go to on my supply zone is the 30-minute. I would not go lower than that, because then I feel like the supply zone isn't strong enough. Then I'm just drawing zones just to draw a zone, and I don't like that, right? I feel like I'm drawing an artificial supply zone, which I do not like. I don't want to draw an insane amount of zones and have an insane amount of trading opportunities, but they're not A+ opportunities. I feel like the zones that I draw on these larger time frames are my A+ opportunities setups, right? Anything lower than that, from what I have personally found, is not A+. So that's just a basic rundown on how I personally draw my supply or demand zones. If you found this video educational, if you learned something new, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, leave a comment if you have any questions, anything, any video ideas. I'll be making more videos like this, educational videos. I'll be breaking down a lot of the trades that I take, why I take them, what was the psychology behind it, what was the price action behind it. If you are new, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe and you stick around if you find this content to be informative. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you have a great, amazing rest of the day, and peace.